We have breaking news as the New York Rangers have officially robbed the NHL, picking a player in the second round of this year's NHL entry draft who is widely known as a hidden gem and a player who fell out of the first round. The Rangers got a first round talent in the second round. We're going to break down why this is fantastic for the New York Rangers heading forward if they can develop this player. We're going to break down everything you need to know about who this is and why he's going to make an impact for this Rangers team on this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 77% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers, go down below, hit that free subscribe button because this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. But Bret, the second round is here because, of course, the New York Rangers did not have their first round pick this year. They decided to defer that to the Pittsburgh Penguins and keep next year's first round pick. But they do get a first round talent with their second round pick. And it is left wing Malcolm Spence out of the Erie Otters of the OHL. And he's actually teammates, I thought was pretty cool, with Carey Terrence, who also just got acquired by the New York Rangers in the Chris Kreider trade. But I'll throw it over to you very quickly. We'll get into the nitty-gritty, the specifics of it. But this is a guy that, you know, all the scouts, all the insiders, the analysts, everyone at the time of this pick were saying that the Rangers have now acquired a first-round talent, a guy who slipped out of the first round. And, you know, there were some interesting moves last night, that's for sure. And they have gotten a first-round talent with their second-round pick this year.
Yeah, they absolutely did. They acquired a diamond in the rough, Darius, and I think it's a really solid pick for the Rangers. And just to keep it short and sweet here before we break them down even further, you know, we've been talking the entire offseason about how Chris Drury has really prioritized the physicality, the speed, and the snarl. And we always mention that when we evaluate these players that are linked to the Rangers to see how much, you know, is really there, how much steam is really there, or how they line up with those traits. And Malcolm Spence definitely checks all the boxes. I mean, he's got the physicality. He's 6'2", over 200 pounds. He's got the speed, not elite speed yet, but his motor is crazy. He's got a motor that just doesn't, you know, he never is on an empty gas tank. He's always, you know, all gas, no brakes. And then when it comes to that snarl, he's got it. He's got that snarl. He's going to forecheck, you know, very aggressively. And this makes sense that, you know, Mike Sullivan loves young players that forecheck aggressively, and Malcolm Spence is certainly that, just 18 years old, very aggressive on the forecheck. And I think this is a player that Mike Sullivan is going to fall in love with quickly here, and hopefully won't take too long before he's a New York Ranger.
Yeah, and not just aggressive on the forecheck. A stat that I thought was really impressive is he actually had 10 shorthanded goals in the OHL, which is pretty impressive. And he had less power play goals than he had shorthanded goals. I think that's amazing, and it just speaks to, like you were just talking about, his aggression on the ice in certain situations, and obviously the aggressiveness that I think the Rangers are lacking in some departments and have at times throughout the last couple of years. And we talk about guys like Will Cooley and stuff like that. But this is a guy that isn't necessarily a Will Cooley type, but he does play with a little bit of that. And, you know, his description here, you can see a highly disruptive winger with intelligence. They are saying that he lacks a dynamic element, which I think is pretty interesting. But other than that, you know, they're saying that his skill set is going to translate very easily to the NHL. And again, a lot of people would have pegged him as a late first round pick, and he slipped to 43 to the New York Rangers. A lot of people are saying, you can see here from Peter Baugh, good value pick by the Rangers. He can be a very likable middle six winger who coaches will use a lot and in different situations. The penalty kill, maybe even the power play moving forward. We don't know what the Rangers are going to look like by the time he's in the NHL. This is not a guy, by the way, who's going to make the NHL in the next year, maybe not even the next 2 years. He is committed to school. He is going to go back to school next season as well. A lot of Leaf fans and, you know, Leaf insiders were hoping that he was going to fall to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there's a lot of people who wanted this player and were surprised that he fell this far. And you can see here from Adam that Malcolm Spence is a wonderful pick at 43rd. Well-rounded winger, scores goals, plays hard, middle six upside, which by the way is fantastic. There were so many picks in the first round last night that a lot of analysts were saying could be a good bottom six forward. And the Rangers in the second round get a middle six forward. There's a guy that could potentially play in all situations and in your top six at some point. So this is a great move. It's a great move. He has, you know, better high-end skill. and ceiling than most second round picks. So, I think that the Rangers could use help in all situations. He seems like he's going to be a Swiss Army knife type of player, which I think is really nice. So any, final thoughts on this player before we move on to, what this means for the New York Rangers, some other moves they can make here at the draft, because I think this is just a great move, and Rangers fans should be. Of course, we can talk about the development, right? But we can also be happy that they picked a really good player here.
Yeah, so just a few final thoughts here. Like Adam on X said about Malcolm Spence, this really is a wonderful pick because he checks all the boxes. He is a guy that's got middle six potential, but not only that, I think he has top six potential. I think he's projected to be that middle six winger that we've seen the analysts speak about here, but I really do see top six potential when it comes to Malcolm Spence. I think he can be at his ceiling a 30-goal scorer, maybe more than that. He doesn't have that dynamic element, but he is very well-rounded. Like I said, he's got the physicality. He's going to do some dirty work. He's a very high IQ player, which I think the Rangers really are in the business of bringing in. We've spoken about guys like Kreider Miller who have all the tools, but doesn't exactly know how to utilize them. So when you look at a Malcolm Spence, this is a guy that was projected in the middle of the first round, even at some points. As of late, he was projected towards the end of the first round. So it's great that we were able to snag him early on day two, especially after a quiet day yesterday. It's nice to have Malcolm Spence here to talk about. And I think he's going to fit in perfect because with that middle six projection, you have Panarin right now at first left wing. We don't expect him to be here long term, but we expect the Rangers to make a big splashy move for their future at first left wing. We expect Will Cooley to be back here within the next few days. He has potential to play on that second line at left wing. And then I think down the road, Malcolm Spence could play. We have that identity fourth line, which I think will be here for quite a few years. Yep. But he has potential to be on that third line at left wing. And like you said, Darius, he can play up and down the line if needed because I think he really has that top six potential. So a great move for the Rangers. They still got a lot of work to do here this offseason, which we're going to break down. But something else I thought was interesting on Malcolm Spence, not only former teammate of Carey Terrence, but former teammate of first overall pick from yesterday's draft, Matthew Schaefer. And that is going to add some juice to this rivalry between the Rangers and the Islanders because we know what Schaefer had to say yesterday. He wants to take it to the Rangers every single time. So I think it's going to be great to have that little extra juice there, with Spence on the Rangers. And I love his leadership, Darius. This is a guy that's been an alternate captain at multiple stops in the OHL, one of the best junior hockey leagues in the world. You would know because, your boy John Tavares played in the OHL, Connor McDavid, Steven Stamkos, and not saying he's going to be one of those three guys, but it is a very impressive junior hockey league, and he's got a lot of potential, Darius. I'm very happy about this.
Yeah, he's putting up great points in the OHL, which is considered, again, like you said, a great junior league when you compare it to college as well. It's a little bit harder to score, I think, in college and university hockey, but still putting up a lot of really good points. He is committed to Michigan next year, so he's not going to make the NHL or anything like that. I think we all kind of knew that. He's going to continue his development, but I think preseason could be interesting if he gets into a game and if they're playing the Islanders. Like you mentioned, there is a storyline there with obviously former teammate Matthew Schaefer, so could get pretty interesting with that. And Schaefer's comments, adding some fuel to the fire in the rivalry. I kind of like it. I have to say, I kind of like it, and it should be good heading into next season. But Bret, real quick, before we wrap up, what do you think the Rangers need to do throughout the rest of this weekend? They have a lot of moves they got to make. I think you got to look at Kreider Miller. Will Cooley's got to get signed before Tuesday. That has to happen this weekend. There's a lot going on, but I think, all eyes right now are what are you doing with Carson Soucy, first of all, and Will Cooley getting signed?
Yeah, my whole thing is, you got to get rid of the dead weight first. And I think Carson Soucy, you just got to move off of him. Chris Drury can't hold on too long here. We spoke about it yesterday. He's not going to increase his trade value. He's just not that good of a player. You're not going to get much for him, even if he has a better, start to the season. I would just move off him right now, clear that cap space. It's not a situation like Kreider Miller where you don't want to give him away for a bag of peanuts, and same with Alexei Lafreniere. Right. Carson Soucy, you're not going to get anything of significance back either way. Just get rid of the dead weight. Rangers need to make a decision on Kreider Miller here soon. And like we spoke about yesterday, if you haven't watched that video, go check that video out. Very fun video. They have to make a decision there, and it's kind of stinks because they have to wait for the Gavrikov situation to kind of come to a head there. So that's why that plan is a little cloudy. It's a little not much of a plan. They're waiting for another team to make a move. So it's kind of slowing the Rangers down here. But the Rangers certainly need to get better at right wing, Darius. I've spoken about this here as of late. I don't love their depth at right wing, and we'll have some more videos on what they could do there, but certainly need to get better at right wing. That's my main focus for sure.
Definitely. And we're going to break it all down the rest of the weekend, and obviously into next week and free agency opening. The one thing I will mention is Gavrikov has not officially re-signed with the LA Kings yet, and we are on draft day 2. So, the weekend's quickly flying by here, and we'll see what happens with that. But like you said, not a big fan of having to wait for other teams to make their moves for you to make your moves. You gotta make the moves that are necessary. But we'll have you covered here on the channel for everything that happens throughout the course of the weekend and heading into next week, of course. But let us know in the comments how you feel about Malcolm Spence. I think it's a fantastic pick, and he's going to be a really, really good player and probably make an impact at the NHL level. Let us know how you feel in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.